Okay, I've got both. That's what I want. Turn my phone off.
When is, we're gonna put it?
I don't know.
July 18th at 10 o'clock. Yep.
Okay, the time is 7 o'clock. Welcome, everybody. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll go ahead and open up the regular city council meeting. Again, the time is 7 o'clock. The Opens Meeting Act is posted on the rear wall next to the agendas. At this time, we'll have roll call.
Please vote for roll call. Seven council members are present, Mayor.
Okay. Next is mayor's comments. I would just like to mention we have John C. Fremont Days coming up this weekend. It's the 35th annual opening ceremonies are on Thursday night, 6 p.m. out at John C. Fremont Park. I would just encourage the public and the community to attend the events and appreciate all the work by our John C. Fremont Days Board of Directors and all the volunteers that it takes to put this great festival on for our community. And I know it's people look forward to it for the whole year, and it looks like it might not be the hottest weekend of the year this year. So please, attend, and again, thanks for all the volunteers that put that on. So we'll go ahead to item 1 as a motion to adopt the current agenda for the July 11th, 2023 regular meeting. Councilman Sukram.
I'll make the motion to adopt the current agenda.
Councilman Jensen.
I will second.
Cast your votes.
Motion carries 7-0, Mayor.
Next, we move on to appointments. This item 2 is moved to confirm the appointment of Gabriel Steele as a police officer per the mayor recommendation. It is my honor tonight to present Gabriel Steele for police officer. He went through all the requirements as well as the Civil Service Commission, has all relevant experience, education, and training. They were evaluated, and again, excited to bring him forward for the appointment. Councilman Sukram.
Mayor and council, I need to abstain from this because the appointee is my nephew.
All right. Are there any other questions or comments from the council? If there are none, I would take a motion to approve the appointment. Councilman Vaughn.
I'd make that motion to approve.
Councilman Jensen.
I will second.
Cast your votes.
Mayor, the motion carries 6-0 with 1 abstention.
Congratulations, Mr. Steele. Welcome to the Fremont Police Department. Okay, we'll move on to the consent agenda. All items in the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the city council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or a citizen so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. Are there any items to be removed from the consent agenda by council or staff? Councilman Dinkins.
Number 7, just to abstain, please.
Any other items? Any items from the public? Seeing none, I would take a motion to approve the consent agenda, items 3 through 6, 8 through 15. Councilman Jensen.
I will make that motion.
Councilman Sukram.
I'll second that.
Cast your votes.
Motion carries 7-0, Mayor.
Item 7 is a motion authorizing the special designated license local recommendation for an outdoor event at 545 East 4th Street for parish fundraiser event. This item was taken off due to an abstention. Are there any questions from the council on this? If not, I'd take a motion on this item. Councilman Jensen,
Make the motion to approve.
Councilman Von Baron,
I'll second.
cast your votes.
Motion carries 6-0 with one abstention, Mayor.
Moving on to unfinished business is item 16, the second reading of ordinance 5649, amending the truck routes. This time we'll have staff report from Mr. Zetterman.
Good evening, Justin Zetterman, Director of Public Works. So this is the truck route designation for Dodge Street. They're paralleling first that we talked about. This will be the second reading. No new news from the railroad. So we just continue with, as the updated ordinance would read, to only change union between Dodge and First and not across the railroad tracks. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions on this item? And just to confirm, this is a second reading, just changing, this would be Dodge Street Union to Bell, correct?
Dodge Street from Union to Bell, and then Union Street from Dodge to First.
Dodge, okay, because we have another item dealing with truck routes. I just want to be clear on that. Okay, thank you. Any questions from the council? Councilman Jensen?
Any reason not to move this to third and final reading and be done with it?
Not that I'm aware of.
Councilman Vaughn? Motion to approve. Councilwoman Ganna?
Second.
Okay, cast your votes.
The motion carries 7-0, Mayor.
We'll not have second reading.
An ordinance of the city of Fremont, Nebraska to amend chapter 5, section 5-203, subsection 5 of the Fremont Municipal Code of the city of Fremont, Nebraska, repealing provisions of in conflict with such amendments, retaining non-conflicting provisions, providing for an effective date of such amendments, and providing for publication of this ordinance in pamphlet form on second reading.
Councilman Jensen?
I'm gonna make the motion to suspend the rules and move this ordinance 5649 to third and final reading.
Councilman Vaughn? I will second. Cast your votes.
The motion carries 7-0, Mayor.
Final reading.
An ordinance of the city of Fremont, Nebraska to amend chapter 5, section 5-203, subsection 5 of the Fremont Municipal Code of the city of Fremont, Nebraska, repealing provisions of this in conflict with such amendments, retaining non-conflicting provisions, providing for an effective date of such amendments, and providing for publication of the ordinance in pamphlet form on final reading.
Cast your final vote.
Ordinance is approved 7-0, Mayor.
Item 17 is resolution 2023-158, authorizing the Public Works Department to spend within procurement guidelines for newly proposed pedestrian crossing at Jack Sutton Drive and Sunridge Drive. We'll have report for Mr. Zetterman.
Justin Zetterman, Public Works. So this is the rapid flashing beacon that we discussed last week. The item was continued, so that's why it's being brought forward again today. I guess one thing I can say about it is this isn't an either or with constructing that north sidewalk. This provides benefits beyond the safety of not having the kids cross. We do have our recreational trail system directly to the south there. And as more people move into that area, they'll want to be able to cross that 3-lane street. And so doing it safely will be important. So if we don't feel it's the right time to do it now, that's fine. We'll hang on to things. And as growth continues, we'll do it. But I do think there are benefits to getting it installed.
Questions, Councilman Von Baron.
Yeah, I did a little background and there was some information we didn't have last time. I didn't realize the UIB had unanimously voted this down. They met just a couple hours before us. And so there was, with no minutes, no updates, there was no way to really know that unless we were at the meeting. What they also did at that same meeting was they unanimously supported the north sidewalk. So for what it's worth at this point, given this is not an either or, I would make a motion to indefinitely postpone this one.
I can't, illegal, is that a privileged motion? I
You just want to continue it? Motion to table?
Given where we are,
Mhm.
yeah, I think one of the statements was we wanted to reassess the need at a future date. Tabling is fine. Postponing is fine.
Just for sake of making the motion, motion to continue until further analysis is done. Is that what you're saying?
No, I just moved to table it for now.
Table it?
It's-
Okay.
I would assume it's going to be a while before we can even do the analysis.
Okay. Yep, that would be privileged.
Okay. Okay, there's no further discussion on a motion to table. Is there, right? Okay, is there a second, Councilman Vaughn?
Just so I'm clear, that's a motion to table indefinitely. Okay, yeah, I would second that.
Okay. Cast your votes.
Motion carries 7-0, Mayor.
Okay. Moving on to item 18 is a resolution 2023-173 to approve final acceptance of 2022 Clarkson Street asphalt overlay project by authorizing the mayor to sign final pay application number 4F.
Justin Zetterman, Public Works. This is for the Clarkson project, which most of it took place last year. There were some items that were finished up in the spring, and the last little piece of it was done here this summer. And so we're just bringing this forward with the final bill and pay estimate that will go out to the contractor. Have any questions? I'd be happy to answer.
Questions on this? Okay, seeing none, comments from the public on this item? Seeing none, any additional comments from council on this? Councilman Jensen?
With no additional comments, I'll make the motion to approve resolution 2023-173.
Councilman Sukram?
Oh, second.
Cast your votes.
Motion carries 7-0, Mayor.
Okay, item 19 is a resolution 2023-174, ordering the Director of Public Works to facilitate the construction of sidewalks on the north side of Jack Sutton Drive. We'll have staff report.
So this is the sidewalk that was brought up last meeting and the desire to move forward with it for the municipal code. Under your direction, we will begin the process to get this sidewalk constructed, which will involve us reaching out to the owner to let them know that they need to get this done. After 30 days, we would then construct it on our own if necessary and special assess it back against the property. For this, I want to start by first apologizing to the developer if I in any way misconstrued how they felt about this project. We have met with them. They are not opposed to sidewalks. They're not opposed to the sidewalk being here. They have some concerns about how it being in place prior to their construction of their development, what that might do. And we've talked about it, and I think we can work through any of those. And they had some very legitimate concerns about taxation on that property, which I also think we're working through with them and can take care of those problems. So they are on board with it. It is my recommendation that we can follow the process and send them the letter, but it would be better for us to do this as a single project, not just our 900 feet over here and theirs over here. The sidewalk that are along those homes has to go in and around several large area inlets. There's a ditch section that was built there. And it's just not going to be as simple as walking 6 foot behind the back of curb, putting your forms in, building a sidewalk. There are places where we're going to have to curve closer to the road and things like that. And I think it would be better if we handled that as a department. We've already gone out and surveyed the ground. So we're in the process of getting ready to lay this out so we can get it built as quickly as the process will allow. That I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for that report. Councilman Von Baron.
Yeah, just for my information, is there, you mentioned concern of where it might run. Is there a standard distance that we consider from the curb to the sidewalk itself?
We're kind of reworking that with the new UDC. In the past, it's been set at, I believe the current regulation is 1 or 1.5 feet inside the right of way from the lot line. So depending on how much space there is, it may vary with the road, but certainly ideally, if we can get something in a 5 or 6 feet, we create that much more separation. But in this case, we'll certainly have to get closer than that and just to work with these area inlets.
All right, thank you.
Councilman Vaughn.
I just wanted to thank you for your efforts on this. I also want to say that the potential crossing sometime in the future is, tabled indefinitely, but something we will consider down the road. But just want to thank you for your diligence in getting this done and the action to combine it into one project so we can knock it out. Having said that, got any guesstimates when we could have it completed?
Well, probably a question that we need to work through as to the landowner's preference would be that we do it as well. They're in support of that, which would mean that we're specially assessing them. Do we have to formally wait the full 30 days? How soon can we put it out for bid? Because as I've been informed today, because this is an assessed project, we aren't allowed to use if it's less than $100,000, we can just get quotes. It'll have to be the full 3-week bidded process. So we're not going to be building it before the school year opens, but certainly I think we have plenty of time to get it done this fall.
All right. Thank you very much.
Councilwoman Ganem.
Mostly a question, will the developer be also responsible when we have to put in sewage lines? Because as I understand, infrastructure is not in there yet on that developed land. So when we need to tie sewage in, will the sidewalk have to be torn up? And will they have to be responsible again for that? Or do we take care of that? Does the city have responsibility, some responsibility?
At the moment, I can't definitively say where the sidewalk's going to be. If we're able to get it further from the road and on the north side of these area inlets closer to the lot line, then there are, with their current plan, 2 places where they have to bring storm sewer into these area inlets. And in those places, just kind of depending on how the panels fall, they might have to take out 8 to 12 feet of sidewalk to make those connections so they can get the pipe in place.
Right, those connections are pretty large.
Yeah, and other than that, there isn't any other crossing. So a fairly minimal amount of sidewalk may have to come out that would be a part of their project at that time.
Okay, and then when I drove it, it kind of goes to like a dead end. And then there's nothing after that. Do we have plans to continue that sidewalk? Because I believe that's city property.
Correct.
Correct? Do we have plans to continue it then, or does it just end?
What we are proposing would be to build this from Johnson to Luther. And so we'll get past that last area houses, and where the road starts to make that S curve, there's about 900 feet that's city owned ground that we would build it there. As we work through some of these drainage projects, we'll be moving the ditch along Luther east, which will allow us to build sidewalk going north, but it's only going to get us to 4th or 5th Street. We still have a lot of issues on trying to figure out what Luther can and will be in the future with the power lines and ditches and everything else that's there.
Okay,
But
so
we don't-
there is a thought for that in the future.
Over time, we
Okay.
absolutely would like to complete Luther. As a,
Yeah.
taking them into the,
In front of the school, hang a left per se.
to go up Johnson Drive. We haven't looked specifically at that. We do have the wider shared youth path coming along Johnson Drive. That has another crossing and then has the crossing at Military to go north. So we get down to, hopefully the kids can, if they're going that direction, they have a very nice sidewalk path to take now. So I don't know that we've looked at continuing to add a second on the other side of Johnson at this time.
Okay. And you base this on data from, because usually I get to go watch and see and kind of assess. So did you base our decision to make sidewalks on data of students, number of students walking or where they're going to, and worked with the school district and worked with the developer?
This is more just based on the anecdotal evidence that kids are walking along Jack Sutton Drive on that wide path and then crossing the 3-lane road with nothing to support that crossing or make it safer to get to Sunridge or to walk further north across Military to some of the other neighborhoods. And so that is the basis for adding the sidewalk, is to eliminate that need for the kids to cross the road so that they can safely walk there or walk all the way to Luther Street. It's not going to stop all of them. If my friends are walking on the south side and they're going further west, I'm going to walk with them until I have to cross the street to go where I'm going. There's no perfect solution here, but it's just based on reports of people saying this isn't safe, and it's not. We don't want kids just walking across 3-lane streets without any crosswalks marked or anything like that. So.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anybody that hasn't spoken at this point want to speak on this? Okay, comments from the public on this item?
Brad Yerger, 2318 East Fifth Street. I'd like to applaud the UIB again for making the decision to do the sidewalks, Councilman Vaughn for raising the issue, I think, in the first place, and for the action that the council has taken thus far. I want to reiterate a few things that I discussed at the last meeting with regards to student safety along First Street as it traverses out to the middle school and the high school. And I spoke to this at the last meeting because there is a pedestrian crossing of First Street down on Howard. And I'm glad that we're not doing that at this juncture. I think that does require more study. With regards to putting the sidewalk on the north side, I'd like to compliment the developer that owns the land here being willing to do this at this juncture, realizing the city has the authority regardless, but at least at the last meeting, we thought we had opposition and now we don't. So that's great. So all of those are compliments, I think, for moving this forward. But I do want to speak to the student safety issue in general, which I did at the last meeting. Students come from Deerfield. They will be coming from Morningside Point. They'll be coming from the south. There's only a sidewalk on the west side of Luther today. There's a 4-way stop sign at Luther. So for children that need to go from the south over to the middle school and to Johnson Crossing, they need the sidewalk on the south side so they don't have to cross Jack Sutton Drive. It's a perfect solution. It is not part of the trail system effectively today because it doesn't hook up to anything. It's a wide sidewalk. The students that live on the north side of First Street, whether they're west of Luther or in Sunridge development, need the sidewalk on the north side to traverse without having to cross the street. So these are all good solutions for purposes of making sure that we have the students on the right side of heavy traffic. My caution to you with regards to this, had you proceeded with the signal, and I'm glad you didn't, was what I had admonished you at the last meeting about the student crosswalk at Howard and First Street. The one that citizens blow through all the time. It's not safe for children. It may be one of those that, you know, traffic safety says moving it off the corners is safer. But I personally witnessed, as I said last time, 3 incidents last year where people went through that pedestrian crossing when students had the right of way. We effectively lowered the speed limit because people were speeding in that area besides compounding the safety issues for students. The speed limit for Luther out to Johnson is a higher speed limit. You might need to think about whether or not that's the appropriate speed limit for school zones. It certainly wouldn't have been if you'd have put a pedestrian walkway in there. You would have needed to slow the traffic down just like you do at the others that are along First Street. So it's maybe not an issue now, but the speeds from Luther to Johnson Drive are higher than they are. And that's where you're concerned about student safety. So I just encourage you to think about those things as you put this sidewalk in. One of the things that I would hope that the council would provide follow-up questions on, because it certainly intrigued my interest with regards to how this is going to be paid or when this is going to be paid. And if the city's going to do this work, are the taxpayers of Fremont funding this temporarily? How long is the temporarily? Because it sounded like perhaps there were some taxation issues that I think you should explore, because ultimately this is assessed and paid for by the developer. My question for you to ask is, well, when will that start? At the completion of the project or sometime down the road, which means that the taxpayers of Fremont are funding this project? And I encourage you to get some clarification on that if you wouldn't mind. Thank you.
Any other comments from the public on this item?
Casey Vaughn, 720 East 4th Street. I did not anticipate coming up today, so this is a little bit on emotion. However, I will say that I do have a child at Johnson Crossing Academic Center. And after his first year, I can say that I have been extremely concerned for the students that are crossing Jack Sutton Road. I personally have had a few close calls and actually stopped and talked to the students about looking for cars. I have spoke with the administrators at Johnson Crossing, and I have also spoke with the gentleman in charge of safety for Fremont Public Schools. So I would like to say that I highly encourage you to proceed with this to protect our children. And I also have to echo what Mr. Yerger said in regards to the speed limit on Jack Sutton Drive. I definitely think that the speed limit should be lowered again to protect our children. Thank you.
Anybody else to speak on this tonight? Okay, seeing none, Councilman Vaughn.
I would go ahead and ask the question maybe to Jody or Justin. So the city pays for this upfront. The developer isn't obligated to pay it back until they develop the land. Is that right?
No, as soon as we levy the assessments, those will go against the lots that are already platted, and they'll begin paying with interest on that. I believe 20 years, what we typically do.
Very temporary bridge.
Yes, yeah, certainly.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions from the council on this? Okay, if there are none, I would take a motion. Councilman Vaughn.
Motion to approve.
Councilman Sukram.
I will second.
Okay, cast your votes.
Motion carries 7-0, Mayor.
Yeah, item 20 is resolution 2023-175, directing the Public Works Department to begin the process of modifying section 5-203 truck routes of the Fremont Municipal Code and install new signage as of the city council's recommended date.
Justin Zetterman, Public Works. When we were discussing the traffic committee meeting notes at the last meeting, one of the items that was brought up was when do we no longer allow heavy trucks between 23rd and Military on Broad Street now that US 7 is officially open and it is now just officially Broad Street. As we discussed, our recommendation would be to wait until after the viaduct is open. That will just be one less disruption to truck traffic in this town. It'll just be one more season for harvest to get us through. And then at that point, switch it over. Today, the UIB met and discussed it. Their recommendation was the same. They certainly did not want any more cones or barricades up on 77 and the Beltway before we do it. And in the end, their recommendation was to wait until the viaduct was done. I drove on it again today and my little car was surrounded by really big trucks. And so I certainly understand the desire to reduce that as quickly as we can. As I put in my staff report, I think the one thing that would be considered if you do want to do it right away, that we do it right away and we try and push it through so it's done before harvest. And we don't right in the middle of harvest season, put up a sign telling a farmer who just had driven down this road 3 days earlier, you can't drive down here anymore, find another way. So that would be my other suggestion, but I'm certainly happy to move forward as you guys see fit.
Okay. Thank you. I just wanted to speak on this. I've received some comments in regards to the local business community and contractors here that are in Fremont. I know a lot of what we're talking about is out of town trucks, but I have a couple of letters I would like to that I received that I said I would pass on to council that I would like to submit into the record on this and pass them out. So I'd take a motion to receive these documents. Councilman Vaughn.
I'll make that motion.
Councilman Jensen.
I'll second.
Okay, cast your votes.
Motion carries 7-0, Mayor.
So I will just say that a lot of some of the concern was we do have local businesses that have been here for decades that obviously need to get in and around town. And I know, we're really talking in my view about out of town trucks. And so I think the council needs to take that into consideration if approving an ordinance tonight. Is there any questions from the council to Mr. Zetterman? Councilman Vaughn.
I mean, these two examples, I don't know if you've been privy to these or not, but these seem to be just concerned with the delineation between local and non-local truck traffic. And these are local businesses that would be therefore exempt. And when we put up a sign that says local truck traffic only, they can proceed on through, right?
I don't know specifically how the code reads today, if we have an option to designate local truck traffic only. What it does state is you are to drive on the truck routes, but not every business, not every place you're going is on a truck route. So it acknowledges and recognizes that at some point you do have to leave the truck route for that local option to get to the point where you're going. And we could certainly discuss if that in and of itself is enough to allow us to designate it that way or to allow them to do it.
I'm pretty sure I've seen that in other cities where they have designated local truck traffic only signs.
And I think that's fine. We're not trying to stop somebody who's, as you've said, going from just north of 23rd Street to get down to a business on West Military. It's the person who's just driving through town. That's the goal. And so we certainly can make sure that the code is set up so we could do that.
Okay, well, I think you know that I would either be one of the voices in favor of putting up signs sooner than later. So,
okay. Any other Questions from the council at this point? Okay, I'll go to comments from the public on this item.
Good evening, David Hartman, Yost Law Firm, 81 West Fifth Street, Fremont, Nebraska. I'm here on behalf of Sawyer Construction Company. And I believe Mayor Spellerberg just offered into the record and it was received, Tom Sawyer, President, his letter. And so I think that's all before you. And one of the things I was going to do was offer the letter into the record and then allow council just a minute or two of my time just to take a look at the letter. That's kind of the framework of what I think Mayor Spellerberg brought up and now Councilman Vaughn. So we're pleased with that thought process right now. So if you want to take a minute to look at Tom Sawyer's letter again, go ahead and that'll just be on my time. Go ahead, Mayor.
Go ahead if you have anything else.
I want to just a few comments. The mayor is exactly right. We have businesses who have been in Fremont, served the Fremont community and the surrounding areas for years and years. Sawyer Construction has been around for 68 years or so. They have a business location at the intersection of Cloverly and Broad in the city limits. They also, that's been there since 1959. They also have a business location out on North Broad between Kathy and Judy. And so they run their trucks. Their business is dependent on truck traffic. They run their trucks from their business on the South Broad to North Broad. And the most efficient manner, of course, is a straight line on Broad Street. So we're here tonight to acknowledge and to really to express our appreciation for the work, the time and money and investment to go into the southeast bypass. That's a good thing. We think that will eliminate quite a bit of traffic on Broad Street, not only truck traffic, but other vehicle traffic too. And that's kind of the hope and the reason we have that. So we appreciate that. And everybody, I think, here in the business community appreciates that. So that's a good thing. The bad thing, however, by restricting these local businesses from driving their trucks from Military to 23rd Street is a bad thing. That really adversely impacts these businesses. I mean, trucking is a big deal and it costs a lot of time and money to run trucks. So there's a lot of expense involved in trucking. These trucks are essential to the economy, to the business community, and to the city of Fremont. And so I think Councilman Bond hit the nail on the head. There's a way to work together to find a solution to this, to maybe address this bad thing of the small business owners in Fremont, serving the Fremont community. One thought is, as you touched upon, is amend the ordinance to allow for the local businesses, maybe within the jurisdictional limits of the city of Fremont, to run their trucks on Broad Street, and perhaps even write in maybe some type of special permitting, certainly not at a high cost or anything, because businesses are imposed with restrictions and regulations all the time. These businesses employ a lot of people. Sawyer's employ 30 people who are taxpayers in the city of Fremont, many of which live in the city of Fremont. So it's a big deal if we need to be able to keep running the trucks on Broad Street from Military to 23rd. That's true for all these local businesses. And I know that the mayor received another letter, I think, from Wheezy Plumbing. And there's businesses here behind me that are going to speak on this too. But so we're here tonight to appreciate what the city has done by way of investment in time and money for the Southeast bypass, but also let's not adversely impact these businesses that have served the Fremont community for years and years and years and are essential to the economy and to the employees. So we appreciate your further consideration. One last thing, my understanding tonight was just a resolution. This isn't an amendment to any ordinances yet. You had an amendment to the ordinance here a few items ago down on Dodge Street, so that you amended the ordinance. Tonight is just a resolution to start that process. But I'd respectfully request perhaps that you table it, like Councilman Barron suggested, and study this. But there's a way to arrive at a solution to not hurt these businesses that depend on truck traffic. Thank you for your time.
Any other comments from the public on this?
Michael Arps, 1210 Timberwood Drive, Ames, Nebraska. I am the president and co-owner of Arps Ready Mix. I don't think I could have said it much better than Dave. But you know, we've been in business here in Fremont since 1964. Our trucks are on Broad Street every single day that we're open practically. A lot of times our deliveries require travel north from Military to 23rd Street. And if we couldn't take that route, it would be definitely detrimental to our business and also many other contractors here in town, you know, so it's going to cause us needlessly to travel detours around the bypass and add costs and all that kind of things that Dave just mentioned. Also, I also receive materials from hired truckers coming from the north. And if they can't take Broad Street down to our location, which is at, you know, just under the Broad Street Viaduct, they're going to have to take the bypass all the way around. That increases my costs as well. So I just respectfully request that before you shut down Broad Street, that you know, assess the impact on all the business in town here that it's going to affect. Thank you.
Dean Papa with Papa Trucking and Grading here in Fremont. We've been in business for 53 years and we use Broad Street quite often. Sometimes it's not on a daily basis, but there are some days we're up and down that street all the time. We feel the same as Dave and Mike talked about, that it'd be detrimental to the way we do business if we couldn't use that street. We pay higher licenses for these trucks, these bigger trucks, to use these streets. We pay a annual highway use tax, heavy highway use tax. It's $550 a truck to be able to use the roads. We think that we pay our fair share to use these roads and streets, and if this gets shut down, we feel that we're not getting what we're paying for. Thank you.
Brad, you're 2318 East Fifth Street. Didn't come prepared to discuss this issue tonight, but listening to it, I just have a couple of thoughts that I think I would like to share. First of all, I certainly understand the issues that are raised, and the suggestion that maybe this needs to be continued for further study is probably a good one. Certainly understand and am sympathetic to the local businesses that need to traverse the city in order to conduct business. Makes perfect sense. Restrictions to local truck traffic are not uncommon. The definition of that maybe is lacking at this point, so probably needs to be attended to. Some of the things that I have seen when I traveled, and we used to travel all over the country, local restrictions on truck traffic were often weight limited. It is not all trucks were prohibited, just certain size of trucks were prohibited, especially if you're not local. So those kinds of things are probably deserving of some investigation. The concern that I have is that this city spent tens of millions of dollars on a bypass. The residents that live along Broad Street were told this will be a cure for your heavy truck traffic coming down, shaking your windows and et cetera, creating all the problems that heavy truck traffic has done for years. And the bypass was to cure that. So I encourage you to think carefully as to weighing the responsibilities that the city has to the citizens of Fremont that were pledged to have a solution for heavy truck traffic rolling up and down that street, creating a residential hazard versus making sure that we accommodate the necessity of local business truck traffic versus those through trucks. And some of those that were specifically discussed and targeted as to, once the bypass is done, you will be using the bypass to get to the South Side Industries that Fremont just embarked on, even though it's a little further trip. That's what was pledged when the bypass was built, and this city took millions of street funds to contribute towards that project. So I encourage you, I think it's a good suggestion to take this and continue this for further study and to figure out the solutions that are necessary for the local trucks. Perhaps those are weight adjusted and local businesses versus the through trucks. But I think it does need further consideration. Otherwise, you'll be ignoring the pledge that the council made long-term when we spent millions of dollars on the bypass. Thank you.
Any other comments from the public on this issue? Okay, back to the council. Comments from the council. Councilman Sukram.
I don't think it's a bad idea to continue this until we can find out all the details. Councilman Vaughn made a great point. Limiting local truck traffic. So if anyone has any more discussion, I'll make that motion to continue.
We got a couple more in the hopper here,
Okay.
so. Councilman Jensen.
Yeah, just my discussion. I live on Military Street. I live military between K and L, so I'm on West Military. And I've seen the difference that the bypass has met. I don't get the big trucks. I don't get the chicken trucks anymore. Military and Broad is still, it's still a tough needle to thread. There's, I mean, we've got ADM downtown. We've got Sawyer Construction. We've got our Ready Mix. There's trucks that have to go that way. They just have to. And I've seen some improvement. I don't think you're ever going to completely eliminate these trucks, but I would agree that we need to maybe look at this a little bit more, just to make sure we get it right before we move forward.
Councilman Vaughn.
I would be in support of your motion to table. I just would ask that we would maybe have legal and city administration look into how we can incorporate local traffic only into our city code. It seems to be absent. We just either black and white, and we don't have that middle ground. So if I could ask for that to come forward to us in the next meeting or two, that'd be great. And I would make that motion to table until then.
Okay, there's a motion to table. Councilman Sukram.
I would second that.
Okay. Cast your votes.
Motion carries 7-0, Mayor.
Okay, item 21 is resolution 2023-176, authorizing placement of stop signs at the intersections along Ridge Road for streets intersecting with Ridge Road from 9th Street to 12th Street.
Justin Zetterman, Public Works. So at some point in time, we started striping stop bars on these streets as they went into Ridge Road, where we have our separate bike lanes. Whether the intent was there or not, stop signs never went up with those stop bars, which you'd expect to see. And seeing that this is very similar to what we did with 19th Street, where we said we want to make sure these people know that they need to stop for the safety as we try to provide that bike route. This resolution is just to kind of continue that effort and put up stop signs in these locations for the T intersections to protect people on Ridge Road and just make it a little clear so there's no confusion.
Thank you. Councilman Sukram, your light's on. Did you have a comment?
Sorry.
Any comments from the council on this? Okay, Councilman Vaughn.
I just once again would express my thanks. I'm not sure if you discovered this oversight, but thinking about it, having ridden that very road, the bike traffic is directed to be on that side of the street that would be most impacted by a car not having a stop sign there. So I think this is very prudent and thank you very much for bringing it forward.
Anything else from the council on this at this time? Comments from the public on this item? I also want to thank Public Works, the traffic committee. They've been very responsive to the requests and looking at all the items. So I appreciate all the work being done. If there's no other comments, I would take a motion. Councilman Sukram.
I'll make the motion on resolution 2023-176.
Councilman Von Baron.
I'll second that.
Cast your votes.
Motion carries 7-0, Mayor.
Okay, next is the executive session to discuss pending litigation. So I would need a motion from a council member to go into executive session. Councilman Jensen.
I move to go into executive session for the purpose of strategy session with regard to real estate purchase and for further reason that the executive session is necessary for the protection of the public interest.
Councilman, what? It's just pending litigation.
I was just reading off of the script.
Okay, so it's just pending litigation.
Pending litigation.
Okay. Councilman Sukram.
I'll second.
Okay, a motion has been made and seconded to go into executive session for the purpose of pending litigation for the further reason that the executive session is necessary for the protection of the public interest.
That's not what the script says.
Is there any discussion? Okay, the pending motion is to go into executive session for the purpose of pending litigation for the further reason that the executive session is necessary for the protection of the public interest. Cast your votes, please.
Motion carries 7-0, Mayor.
Okay, a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of a pending litigation for the further reason that the executive session is necessary for the protection of the public interest has been approved. Discussion will be limited to pending litigation. No official action or votes will be taken during the executive session. We'll now go to the conference room in the back.
I could read it off the script and still drop the ball.
Yeah. You get blood soon.
I'll bring the 24th and 25th.
Okay.
Thank you, you too.
I will talk to them.
Yeah. So.
Got my water. Gotta stay hydrated. It's easy. You got it.
That is right there.
Okay, Councilman Jensen,
Motion to come out of executive session?
Councilman Sucrum. Second. Okay, cast your votes. Councilman Vaughn.
Motion to adjourn.
Councilwoman Ganna,
Second.
cast your votes.
Motion carries 7-0.
We are adjourned.
That's all, boys. We did have one like 2 days before Christmas. Like my
Really
second
close.
year I was here, we had one like 2 days before Christmas, less than about 20 minutes.